Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next hour. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets US counterpart Marco Rubio in Kuala Lumpur on the sidelines of East Asia Summit. Talks focused on bilateral ties and global issues. 5 Pakistani soldiers killed in border clashes with Afghan forces, even as talks for cessation of hostilities continue in Turkey. India and China resume flight operations after a gap of 5 years. First direct flight from Kolkata lands in Guangzhou. Flight from New Delhi to Shanghai and Guangzhou to start in November. China and the US agree on the framework for a trade agreement, even as US President Donald Trump exudes confidence of working out a deal when he meets Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping later this week. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met US Secretary of State Marco Rubio this morning in Kuala Lumpur. The Indian minister appreciated the discussion on the bilateral ties as well as regional and global issues. This marks the 4th in-person meeting between Dr. S. Jaishankar and Marco Rubio. This year, their last interaction took place in September on the sidelines of 80th UN General Assembly UNGA session in New York. And Dr. Jaishankar is in Kuala Lumpur to represent Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the 20th East Asia Summit. The East Asia Summit will provide an opportunity to deliberate on the challenges to peace, stability and prosperity in Indo-Pacific region and also exchange views on regional and international developments. Apart from the ASEAN member states, East Asia Summit includes India, China, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Australia, New Zealand, the US and Russia. All right, now Dibyendu Mondal joins us on the broadcast for more. Hi Dibyendu, tell us first of all, how significant is this meeting between External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, especially coming amid the ongoing trade discussions between the two countries?
Well, good morning, Abhishek. This is a very, very significant meeting that comes at the backdrop of the negotiations that are currently underway with the US, in fact, between the US and India with respect to the trade negotiations. Remember, these trade negotiations had been going on for quite some time after the US had slammed tariffs, unjustified tariffs on India. Since then, there have been negotiations going on with regards to, coming to a common table with regards to the trade and the tariffs as far as the trade and tariffs are concerned. But this meeting also, as you also mentioned, that this is the second meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar. There could be some, positive outcomes of this meeting that is expected to come in the coming days with respect to, again, the trade negotiations that have been going on. But this is a meeting that had taken place on the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit that is currently underway in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. There have been talks about the ongoing discussions on the trade, the tariffs that India and US are working out to come on the common ground. So therefore, this meeting is very significant. This brings in some sort of positive light to the trade negotiations that could see the light of the day in the coming days.
Dibyendu, also, talking about the East Asia Summit overall, how is India approaching this summit this year? Particularly on the matters concerning peace, stability in the Indo-Pacific region?
Well, Abhishek, look, ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi had come to power, his Look
Yeah.
East policy had been extremely clear to the fact that India has been a major player in the
Yeah.
global south, and India has been cooperating with the global south. So
Yes.
this ASEAN summit is particularly with the fact with regards to all the players and all the members of the global south. We heard yesterday Prime Minister Narendra Modi also talking about how India's cooperation with the global south will make this region of the world extremely powerful. It also represents almost one third of the world's population, combining India and the ASEAN countries. So therefore, the outcomes of the ASEAN summit will be extremely important. We also heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his speech yesterday, where he was virtually attending the ASEAN summit. He spoke about how 2026 would be a year of maritime cooperation between India and Malaysia, and at a larger context of the ASEAN countries, because remember, Malaysia and the ASEAN countries is an important part of the Indo-Pacific region, because and the Indo-Pacific region is an important strategic position for not just for India but also for all the ASEAN countries and many of the countries in the global south. So therefore, this summit comes at a backdrop of a lot of global changes that are happening, global strategic shifts that are happening at this point in time. So therefore, the outcome of the summit will is expected to be positive, is expected to be more robust. The theme this year is inclusivity and sustainability, and also. Prime Minister also spoke about how India's and Malaysia's relationship has been growing between the two countries over the last one decade, and also a joint declaration on sustainable tourism has been signed and accepted and adopted by all the member nations as well as all the participating nations in the ASEAN summit. So therefore, the outcome is expected to be positive for this particular ASEAN summit.
All right. So
Abhishek.
tomorrow is the last day of the 3-day summit. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs, Dibyendu. Prime Minister Modi on Sunday virtually delivered his remarks at the 22nd ASEAN-India Summit being held in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. The Prime Minister says, in fact, he said, and I quote him here, India and ASEAN together represent nearly 1/4 of world's population. We not only share geography, we are also bound by deep historical ties and shared values. We are companions in the global south. We are not only commercial partners, but also cultural partners. ASEAN is a cornerstone of India's Act East policy. So India has always fully supported ASEAN's centrality and ASEAN's outlook in Indo-Pacific. And even in this era of uncertainties, India-ASEAN comprehensive strategic partnership has continued to make steady progress. The theme of this year's ASEAN Summit is inclusivity and sustainability, and this theme is clearly reflected in our joint efforts, whether it is digital inclusion or ensuring food security and resilient supply chains amid current global challenges. India fully supports these priorities and is committed to advancing them together. India has stood firmly with its ASEAN friends in every disaster. Our cooperation in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, which is HADR, maritime security and the blue economy, is growing rapidly. In view of this, we are declaring 2026 as ASEAN-India Year of Maritime Cooperation. At the same time, we are steadily advancing our cooperation in education, tourism, science and tech, health, green energy and cyber security, and will continue to work together to preserve our shared cultural heritage and strengthen people-to-people ties. The 21st century is our century, the century of India and ASEAN, and I'm confident that the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and the goal of Viksit Bharat 2047 will build a bright future for all of humanity. India is committed to working shoulder to shoulder in this direction.
भारत हर आपदा में अपने आसियान मित्रों के साथ मजबूती से खड़ा रहा है। HADR, समुद्री सुरक्षा और ब्लू इकोनॉमी में हमारा सहयोग तेजी से बढ़ रहा है। इसको देखते हुए हम 2026 को आसियान इंडिया ईयर ऑफ मैरीटाइम कोऑपरेशन घोषित कर रहे हैं। साथ ही हम एजुकेशन, टूरिज्म, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, हेल्थ, ग्रीन एनर्जी और साइबर सिक्योरिटी में आपसी सहयोग को भी मजबूती से आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। अपनी साझा सांस्कृतिक विरासत को संजोने और पीपल टू पीपल संबंधों को मजबूत करने के लिए हम साथ मिलकर काम करते रहेंगे।
All right, shifting focus now. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal will begin his two-day Brussels visit from today, during which he will hold high-level discussions with the Executive Vice President and European Commissioner for Trade of the European Union, Maroš Šefčovič. The visit comes at a crucial stage in ongoing India-EU free trade agreement negotiations as both sides intensify efforts to conclude a comprehensive, balanced and mutually beneficial trade agreement at the earliest. Building on the momentum generated by the 14th round of negotiations held earlier this month, the minister's visit aims to provide strategic direction and political impetus to the talks. Discussions are expected to cover key areas of the proposed FTA, including market access, non-tariff measures and regulatory cooperation. The visit will also serve to review progress achieved so far and to identify areas requiring further convergence. Now, New Delhi will host the 8th session of the International Solar Alliance Assembly from today at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. The four-day event brings together the global community to deepen cooperation and accelerate solar adoption for a brighter and sustainable future. Representatives from 124 countries and over 40 Indian ministers will review progress, address challenges and align actions towards one vision: affordable solar energy for all. Significantly, President Draupadi Murmu will deliver the keynote address on Tuesday, highlighting India's commitment to global solar development through ISA. India has achieved 50% of its total installed electricity generation capacity from non-fossil fuel sources 5 years ago, ahead of its target. India is the world's third largest solar producer and world's second largest market for renewable energy. In all, the Solar Alliance will take forward the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi of harnessing the power of solar energy. Moving on, direct flights between India and China have officially resumed after a hiatus of over 5 years. The first flight took off on Sunday from Kolkata to Guangzhou, with private carrier Indigo now undertaking daily non-stop flights, while the Shanghai and New Delhi route will begin operations on November 9 with 3 flights every week. Indigo is among the first airlines to restart services following the COVID-19 suspension. These routes are expected to help rebuild trade, tourism and business ties that had been disrupted in recent years. All right, time now for a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. US President Donald Trump heads to Japan on the second leg of his worldwide Asia tour. Red Cross and Egypt join search for bodies of deceased hostages in Gaza. India's Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan attends the swearing-in ceremony of the new President of Seychelles.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
अरे it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Fresh clashes near the border with Afghanistan have killed at least 5 Pakistani soldiers, even as the delegation from both sides met in Istanbul to try to defuse tensions after the deadliest fighting in years. Afghanistan's Taliban government is yet to repose on the latest clashes, but has repeatedly rejected accusations of harboring armed fighters and instead accuses Pakistan of violating Afghan sovereignty with airstrikes. Meanwhile, delegation from both countries arrived in Istanbul, Turkey, on Saturday for talks aimed at preventing a return to full-scale conflict. The meeting comes days after Qatar and Turkey brokered a ceasefire in Doha to halt the most serious border fighting since the Taliban takeover of Kabul in 2021. The violence earlier this month killed dozens and wounded hundreds. Now, top Chinese and US economic officials agreed on the framework for a trade agreement on Sunday as US President Donald Trump said he was confident of hashing out a deal with Chinese President Xi Jinping when they meet in the coming days. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer met with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng and top trade negotiator Li Chenggang on the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur for a 5th round of in-person discussions since May. Bessent said a deal had been agreed to avoid 100% US tariffs on Chinese goods and achieve a deferral of China's rare earth export controls. Bessent also said China will delay its expanded licensing regime for rare earths by a year and re-examine it.
So this was the 5th meeting that I've had with my Chinese counterpart, the Vice Premier, He Lifeng, and we covered a wide range of issues, and I think we've reached a substantial framework for the two leaders who will meet in Korea next Thursday. So, on the table, the president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed their rare earth global export controls. So I think we have averted that so that the tariffs will be averted. And we have a regular quarterly meeting with the Chinese.
And Donald Trump arrived in Malaysia on Sunday for a summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, his first stop in a 5-day Asia tour that is expected to culminate in a face-to-face with Xi in South Korea on October 30th. After the talks, he struck a positive tone. Trump is due to land in the southern port city of Busan on Wednesday ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit and will meet South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. Trump is also expected to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for the first time since 2019. US President Donald Trump will be on a 3-day visit to Japan from today for the second leg of an Asian tour. Trump will meet Japanese PM Sanae Takaichi, the country's first female prime minister, today. The meeting is considered a major diplomatic test for Takaichi, who assumed office on October 21st. The two leaders are expected to focus on strengthening the Japan-US alliance and addressing key security concerns. In addition to meeting Takaichi, Trump is also scheduled to meet with Emperor Naruhito. And Trump's stop in Tokyo follows his participation in ASEAN Leaders Summit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, as part of his 3-nation Asia tour. In a statement, Japan's foreign ministry said it sincerely welcomes the visit of President Trump, describing it as an ideal opportunity to reinforce bilateral cooperation and friendship between Japan and the United States. And Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said he had a positive meeting on Sunday with US President Donald Trump, and their respective teams will start immediately to discuss tariffs and other matters. Trump and Lula spoke on the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, in a meeting to overcome tensions between Brazil and the United States after Trump increased tariffs on US imports of most Brazilian goods to 50% from 10% in the month of August. Ahead of the meeting on Sunday, though, Trump said he could reach some agreements with Lula. Trump said we should be able to make some pretty good deals for both countries. Lula previously described the tariff hike as a mistake, citing a $410 billion US trade surplus with Brazil over 15 years. Brazil's Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira said negotiations will start immediately to work on solutions, and a meeting with the US delegation was planned for Sunday. And moving on to West Asia, a group of Red Cross officials met with members of Hamas and Khan Yunis on Sunday to discuss how to locate the missing dead bodies of Israeli hostages believed to be in Rafah. It came after Israel permitted Red Cross and Egyptian teams to search for the bodies of deceased hostages beyond the yellow line that is demarcating the Israeli military's pullback in the Gaza Strip. This is a major reversal of a policy of barring entry to foreign forces by Israel. Israeli government spokesperson said that Israel will maintain overall security control in Gaza and said Israel remains extremely committed to upholding its side of the agreement, ensuring, in fact, that policy shift permits international recovery efforts.
The Prime Minister has said, Joel, it's going to be done the easy way or the hard way, and Israel will have overall security control of the Gaza Strip. I'll point you back to the 20-point plan, which we continue to reiterate, which Israel remains extremely committed to as we have upheld our side of the agreement. Gaza will be demilitarized and Hamas will have no part in governing the Palestinian people.
And as part of the ceasefire agreement, Hamas has said it will return all the hostages it abducted, but the remains of 13 are still in the enclave. They include 10 Israeli kidnapped during the attack on October 7, 2023 that triggered the conflict, one Israeli missing since 2014, a Thai and a Tanzanian worker. Hamas has already returned the remaining 20 living hostages and 15 bodies of hostages, but Hamas warns it will struggle to find the bodies of the others in the ruins of Gaza. And Israel insisted on Sunday that it will maintain control of security inside Gaza despite signing up to a U.S. brokered ceasefire that foresees the deployment of an international security force. The United States and allies have set up a truce monitoring center in southern Israel, the Civil Military Coordination Center, and dispatched a string of top officials from President Donald Trump's administration to promote the ceasefire. But Israel opposes any role for its regional rival Turkey. Israel has withdrawn its forces within Gaza to the yellow line but remains in control of more than half the territory, and it approves every UN aid convoy going through its borders and has carried out at least 2 strikes since the ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told ministers on Sunday that Israel would decide for itself where and when to strike its foes and which countries would be allowed to send troops to police the truce.
We control our own security, and we have made clear that in regard to international forces, Israel will determine which forces are unacceptable to us. And that is how we act and will continue to act. This is, of course, accepted by the United States as well, as its most senior representatives made clear in recent days. Israel is an independent state. We will defend ourselves by ourselves, and we will continue to control our fate.
Now, Patrick Hermini was sworn in as Seychelles' 6th president on Sunday after defeating incumbent Wavel Ramkalawan in runoff election. Hermini won 52.7% of the votes, returning the United Seychelles Party to full control of the government. The party also regained its parliamentary majority last month, reversing losses from 2015. Hermini campaigned on anti-corruption and pledged to reverse policies introduced by Ramkalawan's administration. He has promised to lower the retirement age from 65 to 63 and implement recommendations from a Truth and Reconciliation Commission that investigated abuses linked to a 1977 coup. Hermini previously served as Parliament Speaker from 2007 to 2016 and was arrested in 2023 on witchcraft charges that were later dropped. And India's Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan attended the swearing-in ceremony of the new President of Seychelles. And DD India correspondent Jayanti Jha joins us for more. Hi Jayanti, get us an update on what has happened so far and what's on the agenda.
Good morning from Seychelles. Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan is on his maiden foreign visit since assuming office to Seychelles, where yesterday he attended the swearing-in ceremony of the Seychelles President Dr. Patrick Hermini. He also engaged with the Indian diaspora, which is a very strong presence in Seychelles, and he also held a bilateral with Mauritian Prime Minister here in Seychelles. Today also he will be calling upon the newly elected President of Seychelles, Dr. Patrick Hermini, as well as calling upon the Vice President of Seychelles to reaffirming the long-standing ties between the two nations.
And you know, Jyoti, India and Seychelles have a time-tested relationship. Tell us, what are the broad areas of cooperation between the two countries?
Yes, like you said, there are very close ties that the two nations share. The two countries are connected geographically by the Indian Ocean. Seychelles is a very integral part of the Mahasagar vision of Prime Minister Modi. At the same time, maritime security is a very important element of cooperation. Defense is an important element, renewable energy, blue economy. So there are several areas of cooperation between the two nations that we can hope to see further solidification on.
Right, Jayanti, and also last question before we leave you. What do we see and where do we see this relationship heading in the future?
Yes, definitely. Like, they are historical ties, but they are very future focused. They are very forward looking. Yesterday, while interacting with the diaspora, even the Vice President said that the two nations should be exploring newer areas of collaboration that are relevant to the times that we live in today, like whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's alternate sources of energy, technology, things like that. So we definitely can see increased partnership between the two nations in the coming future.
All right, Jayanti, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs from Seychelles. Moving on, Argentine President Javier Milei's party cruised to victory in midterm legislative elections as voters overwhelmingly backed his free market reforms and deep austerity measures. After the results, Milei said his party's big victory in the nation's midterm elections marked a turning point and vowed to pursue reforms his government still considers necessary. He added that the voters had shown their desire to irreversibly change the path forward for South America's number 2 economy. The results will also likely be welcome news to US President Donald Trump, whose administration recently provided Argentina the hefty financial bailout but had threatened to pull away if Milei did not do well. Elections were the first national test of Milei's support since he won office 2 years ago on a promise to revive the long-ailing Argentine economy through a series of painful reforms. All right, still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. Lithuania shuts Vilnius airport. Caribbean countries brace for catastrophic floods, landslides as Category 4 hurricane Melissa set to make a landslide. And Chhath Puja being celebrated with traditional fervour across several parts of India. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets US counterpart Marco Rubio in Kuala Lumpur on the sidelines of East Asia Summit. Talks focus on bilateral ties and global issues. 5 Pakistani soldiers killed in border clashes with Afghan forces, even as talks for cessation of hostilities continue in Turkey. India and China resume flight operations after a gap of 5 years. First direct flight from Kolkata lands in Guangzhou. Flights from New Delhi to Shanghai and Guangzhou to start in November. China and the US agree on the framework for a trade agreement, even as US President Donald Trump exudes confidence of working out a deal when he meets Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping later this week. Now, Kosovo's parliament failed to elect Albin Kurti as Prime Minister on Sunday following an inconclusive parliamentary vote in February. Kurti, the leader of the Vete Vondese party, who is currently serving as Prime Minister in a caretaker capacity, received only 56 votes in the 120-seat parliament, 5 short of the majority required to form a government. Opposition parties, the Democratic Party of Kosovo, PDK, the Democratic League of Kosovo, LDK, and the Alliance for the Future of Kosovo, AAK, voted against Kurti's candidacy. It remains unclear if the country's president will ask the second or third place party to form a government. Both of them have said they think a new election should be held. Opposition parties have refused to govern with Kurti, criticizing his handling of Kosovo's relations with his Western allies and his actions in Kosovo's ethnically divided north. Now, in Cameroon's Douala city, 4 people were killed in clashes between security forces and opposition protesters on Sunday. Cameroonian authorities have detained about 30 politicians and activists linked to Chekoma as protests spread across several cities ahead of the presidential election results on Monday. In the commercial capital, hundreds of opposition supporters barricaded roads and burned tires, prompting police to use tear gas and water cannons. Cheroma's supporters claimed he defeated longtime leader Paul Biya in October 12 election and accused authorities of planning to rig the outcome. The government denies irregularities and has urged the public to wait for the official results. Now, Lithuania closed Vilnius airport on Sunday after several objects identified as likely helium balloons entered its airspace, the 4th such incident this week. The airport was also closed on Saturday due to weather balloons entering its airspace from neighboring Belarus. On Friday, Lithuania closed its 2 biggest airports and shut crossings on its border with Belarus after helium weather balloons drifted into its territory. Lithuania has said balloons are sent by smugglers transporting contraband cigarettes, but it also blames Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko for not stopping the practice. Lithuanian Prime Minister Inga Ružienė on Friday said the country's National Security Commission will meet next week to assess the situation. Striking workers at Boeing Defense in St. Louis area rejected the company's latest contract proposal, sending a strike that has already delayed delivery of fighter jets and other programs into its 13th week. The 5-year offer was largely the same as offers previously rejected by union members. The company reduced the ratification bonus but added $3,000 in Boeing shares that vest over 3 years and a $1,000 retention bonus in 4 years. It also improved wage growth for workers at the top of the pay scale in the 4th year of the contract. The never-ending strike is affecting the company constantly. Boeing is expected to report another unprofitable quarter when it posts its 3rd quarter results on Wednesday. Jamaica braces for Hurricane Melissa as residents stock up on supplies and board the windows. Hurricane Melissa has developed into Category 4 hurricane and is expected to strengthen as it heads towards Jamaica. Authorities say Melissa is expected to bring 15 to 30 inches of rain to Jamaica and southern Hispaniola with a local maximum of up to 40 inches. Eastern Cuba is expected to receive 10 to 15 inches. Melissa, which was last tracked 180 kilometers south of Kingston and expected to make landfall in Jamaica Monday night or Tuesday morning and hit southeastern Cuba late Tuesday. The NHC said Melissa is expected to bring 15 to 30 inches of rain to Jamaica and southern Hispaniola with a local maximum of up to 40 inches. Eastern Cuba is expected to receive 10 to 15 inches with local amounts of up to 20 inches. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Spanish National Police intercepted a Tanzanian flagged supply ship about 600 miles off the Canary Islands, seizing 4 tons of cocaine hidden in concealed compartments. All 9 crew members were arrested. The vessel was reportedly headed for the port of Vigo. The operation was coordinated by the Special Anti-Drug Prosecutor's Office with support from the Spanish Navy. Suspects in the brazen daylight heist of some of France's crown jewels from the Louvre were arrested near Paris. Paris prosecutor stated that one of the men was arrested at Charles de Gaulle Airport, north of Paris, as he was about to leave the country. Thieves stole 8 precious pieces worth an estimated $102 million from the Louvre's collection on October 19. In Belgium, the residents of Casterly town got into huge hollowed-out pumpkins to paddle around a pond on Sunday for an annual event celebrating the squashes and water sport. The event features teams completing a relay race of 100 meters using the giant pumpkins as boats. Moving on, Indian Army is renowned for its professionalism and secularism. Our correspondent Nandita Dagar visited a forward post along the LOC and filed this report on the ethos of the Indian Army.
This is the Nowshera sector of Jammu and Kashmir. We are at the LOC. This is the place which Brigadier Mohammad Usman of our army defended with his life. During the 1947-48 war with Pakistan, Mahavir Chakra Brigadier Mohammad Usman recaptured Jaishankar of Rajouri from the Pakistani army and defended Nowshera. That is why we refer to him as the Lion of Nowshera. But his mission is still being kept alive by our army troops who are stemming infiltration by terrorists from Pakistan and eliminating them. Today, these troops are armed with state-of-the-art technology.
ये नॉर्वे से खरीदा गया है और जो कि जैसे हम अम्बुश जाते हैं, पेट्रोलिंग जाते हैं, उससे पहले हम रास्ते को सैनिटाइज करते हैं, तो इसके द्वारा हम रास्ते को सैनिटाइज कर सकते हैं जिससे कि हमारे जो भी जवान हैं उनकी जान बच सके। ये इतना छोटा है कि जैसे आप दुश्मन इसको देख भी नहीं पाएगा और इसकी आवाज़ भी दुश्मन तक नहीं पहुंचेगी।
What is it that makes our army men put their lives in peril for the nation? Faith in a higher power is one such factor. A mandir or a temple parade being held at the rear headquarters of a battalion here at the LOC in Nowshera. And it's not just a temple parade because our army is an army which is very secular. It believes in all faiths and has soldiers from all faiths, all religions. It believes in Sarv Dharm Sambhav. Therefore, the Indian Army, apart from having a temple parade, also has a mosque parade or a masjid parade, also has a Gurudwara parade and a church parade. All festivals, Diwali, Eid, Guru Purab, are celebrated with equal fervor. Here at this forward post of a battalion in Nowshera at the LOC is a very special place. So much so that this forward post derives its name from the Khori Baba. It's known as the Khori Baba post. You can call it a Khori Baba Dargah or call it a Khori Baba Mandir, but this is the place the army troops converge in the mornings and evenings and they pray here. Khori Baba was a mortal man who lived here in 1947-48 when Pakistani raiders along with the Pakistani military tried to invade. Khori Baba was the one who gave shelter to the local villagers and he also gave it his best and countered the Pakistani military. Now the troops at this post very ardently believe that it was Khori Baba and his blessings that kept this post secure during the relentless artillery shelling and firing by the Pakistanis during Operation Sindoor, the first few days of Operation Sindoor. That's faith and you can't argue with faith. With camera person Dhiman at Nowshera at the LOC, this is Nandita Dagar for DD India.
And October 27 marks the 79th Infantry Day, honouring the Queen of Battle, the most crucial fighting arm of the Indian Army. We salute the infantry's unwavering role in defending India's sovereignty from high-altitude borders to counter terror operations.
On October 27th, we commemorate Infantry Day, honouring the Queen of Battle, the largest and most crucial fighting arm of the Indian Army. The day marks a unique historical turning point. October 27th 1947. Just after the instrument of accession was signed, infantrymen were the first to land at Srinagar airfield. Led by the brave Lieutenant Colonel Diwan Ranjit Rai, they fiercely pushed back the Pakistan-backed tribal invaders who aimed to seize Srinagar. Lieutenant Colonel Rai was martyred near Baramulla, but his action saved the state. This operation was the first military action of independent India, setting the standard for courage, dedication, and sacrifice. As the nation commemorates the 79th Infantry Day in 2025, we salute the steadfast infantry for safeguarding India's sovereignty. Jai Hind.
Now, Chhath Puja, the festival of faith, discipline and devotion, is being celebrated with traditional fervour across several parts of India, especially in Bihar, Jharkhand, Eastern Uttar Pradesh and Delhi. Devotees are offering prayers to the setting and rising sun, expressing gratitude for life and nature's abundance.
The festival of Chhath Puja paints the ghats and the river banks with hues of faith and devotion. Dressed in traditional attire, devotees gather at water bodies to offer arghya to the setting sun, thanking Lord Sun for bestowing life, energy and prosperity. Celebrated over 4 days, the ritual of Nahai Khai, Kharna, Sandhya Arghya and Usha Arghya symbolizes purification, fasting and surrender to the divine. Women devotees observe rigorous fasting, standing in water for hours, praying for the well-being of their families. From Patna's Ganga Ghats to Delhi's Yamuna banks and housing societies across metropolitan cities, the spirit of Chhath transcends regions, uniting communities in a shared reverence for nature. Chhath Puja has turned into a global celebration from India to the shores of abroad, where devotees worldwide unite in prayers to the setting and rising sun, celebrating faith, purity and the eternal bond with nature. The festival also underscores India's deep ecological connect, worshipping the sun, water and earth, reflecting a balance between spirituality and sustainability. Chhath Puja once again reminds us of India's timeless cultural harmony and enduring faith. A festival where devotion meets discipline, Chhath Puja continues to inspire millions through its message of gratitude and harmony with nature. Kriti Vadhera's report for DD India.
Alright, still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. Australia's Competition and Consumer Commission accuses Microsoft. Stay tuned to know more. India's Preeti Smita Bhoi sets a new weightlifting record.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more updates. Australia's Competition and Consumer Commission accused Microsoft on Monday of misleading people into paying for its AI assistant Copilot. The authority said it had filed a suit in the federal court against Microsoft Australia and its parent Microsoft Corporation. The software giant is accused of making false or misleading statements to around 2.7 million Australians who subscribed by auto-renewal to Microsoft 365 plans, which include a suite of online office services. The competition watchdog accused Microsoft of misleading subscribers on personal and family plans since October 31st, 2024. The commission is seeking penalties, injunctions, consumer redress and cost. Microsoft could face penalties of over $30 million for each breach. Now, Japan's benchmark stock average topped the 50,000 mark for the first time on Monday as investors welcomed an easing in US-China tensions and with expectations growing for the Federal Reserve to further cut rates this week. The Nikkei jumped 1.6% to 50,080.49 in early trading. The gauge broke through 45,000 on September 16 and has marched through successive rounds of numbers at a rapid clip. It marks a dramatic turnaround for a long moribund market that saw the Nikkei take 34 years to finally recover to its bubble economy peak in February 2024. And South Korea's benchmark Kospi index also topped 4,000 points on Monday for the first time, lifted by broader optimism over a potential US-China trade deal. The Kospi jumped more than 90 points or 2.3% to reach 4,031 in the first hour of trading. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with cricket. India's final group stage match against Bangladesh at the Women's World Cup in Navi Mumbai was washed out due to heavy rain. Following a delayed start, India captain Harmanpreet Kaur won the toss and elected to field. The host restricted the visitors to 119 runs for the loss of 9 wickets in 27 overs. Chasing a revised target of 126, Smriti Mandhana opened the innings with Amanjot Kaur in the absence of her regular partner Pratika Rawal, who picked up an ankle injury during the first innings. The openers added 57 runs when the rain returned and brought an end to the contest. Next, India will take on defending champions Australia in the semi-finals on Thursday. And India's Preeti Smita Bhoi has set a new weightlifting record by successfully lifting 92 kilograms in the clean and jerk event at the Asian Youth Games in Bahrain. The record earned her a gold medal in the girls' 44-kilogram category in Manama City. The 16-year-old Indian also clinched silver in the snatch section with a 66 kg lift to finish with 2 medals. Bhoi's gold medal was India's third at the Games and the first by an individual. The other 2 gold medals by India were won by their men's and women's kabaddi teams. India's overall tally has risen to 24, including 3 gold and 10 silver and 11 bronze. And in chess, Indian grandmasters D. Gukesh and Divya Deshmukh clinched 2 gold medals apiece at the European Chess Club Cup 2025. While Gukesh won the team title and individual gold in the open section, Deshmukh clinched the women's team title and individual gold. Playing for Team Super Chess, the reigning world champion started playing the tournament from the 3rd round as his team clinched the title with a perfect score. Meanwhile, Divya Deshmukh, playing for Circle de Chèque de Monte Carlo team, won the title with a score of 13 out of a possible 14. India's Nihal Sareen also bagged an individual gold medal. Tennis now. Yannick Sinner clinched his 4th title of the season as the Italian rallied from a set down to beat Alexander Zverev in the Vienna Open finals. Sinner dropped his first set of the tournament before staging a comeback to see out Zverev 3-6, 6-3, 7-5. It was his second triumph in Vienna, where he also lifted the trophy in 2023. Sinner, who beat Zverev in straight sets at this year's Australian Open, has now won 21 consecutive matches on indoor hard courts. The 24-year-old has also notched 22 titles and 51 career wins against fellow top 10 players. The world number 2 banged down 11 aces and unleashed 44 winners in a thrilling contest that lasted 2 hours and 28 minutes. And football star Cristiano Ronaldo achieved yet another stunning milestone in his legendary career. The Portuguese forward scored his 950th professional goal during Al Nassr's 2-0 victory over Al Hazm in Saudi Pro League. Ronaldo became the first player ever to reach 950 verified goals across clubs and the Portugal national team. His performance in 2025 has been exceptional, maintaining a staggering rate of scoring for both Al Nassr and Portugal. Key statistics of his recent run include 34 goals in 38 total appearances for both club and country. Cristiano Ronaldo has now netted 106 goals for Al Nassr since his arrival in 2023. Ronaldo has stated that he is still hungry for more and is eyeing the unprecedented 1,000-goal mark. And Captain Pat Cummins has been ruled out of the first Ashes test against England in Perth next month. Steve Smith will lead the side in Cummins' absence. Cricket Australia said that Cummins had now resumed running and would be back bowling soon, offering hope the 32-year-old might be fit to take part in the second test in Brisbane from December 4th. Cummins has been sidelined by a lower back issue since July and was already a major doubt for the series opener against England, which starts November 21st. Scott Boland is almost certain to replace him in the bowling attack alongside Josh Hazlewood and Mitchell Starc. A giant Day of the Dead installation in Mexico City's main square marks 700 years since Mexico Tenochtitlan's founding. The installation showcases 10-meter skull-adorned female figures and celebrates Mexico's UNESCO-recognized fusion of pre-Hispanic and Catholic traditions. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.